Kevin had secured Sharon as JR's date for the night. Meanwhile, in Branson, Jim and Betsy drop off Elizabeth at the hotel to rest for this afternoon, while the women and men get ready for lunch and the afternoon activities. 1 p.m. Jerry and Kevin grab a bite at CC's Pizza buffet. They talked about their classes. Both of them would be in government class together, but the rest would be separate. 2:30 p.m. Jim and Claude are on the scenic railroad in Branson. Claude is taking pictures of the Ozark Mountains. The plan before dinner was to drop by a 1-hour photo to develop the photos and get copies and send to family and friends. 7:45 p.m. At the Hyatt Place Ballroom in Lubbock, JR and his friends are sitting at a table having had New York strip steak dinner, listening to congressional candidate Joseph Carey. He has such ideas as get tough on crime, to bolstering a free market economy and protecting the sanctity of life and traditional values. Meanwhile, Jim and Betsy, Claude and Becky are attending an Al Ketchum show in Branson. Jim had some Texas Railroad Commission meetings, the business to take care of the next day. So the girls would go shopping. Then they would go see rising country star Terry Lawrence, someone who had only been on the country scene since 1989. $8:50 p.m. Darren arrives to pick up JR and Sharon. Inside the car, Sharon and JR talk. Your ex-girlfriend found Jennifer in the Center for Public Affairs yesterday, complaining about how you two had a bad relationship, Sharon said. What did Jennifer tell her? JR said, let me tell you something, JR. If looks could kill, Jennifer would have a knockdown, drag-out rivalry with Kevin. 9 p.m. Back at the dorm, JR is on the phone with his friend Ken, who is very angry at Karen Crowder. I told you not to blame her. Remember the damned email? JR said. I don't know what it is, but Mr. Crowder had his hands on how she turned out, and so she had a tough environment. Don't give me that crap, Ken said. Now we all have a choice, and she has done made hers. January 12th, 4:45 a.m. JR wakes up and dresses for the day. His day was power-packed. Breakfast at the Spirit Club. Then he was to meet with his business and professional communications professor, Marlene Dietrich. Not to be confused with Marlena Dietrich. The Pennsylvania-born consultant and speechwriter who would later this year have contact with his father. "4:50 a.m. Jim and Claude wake up from the night's previous activities hungover. Jim made coffee black and fetched cigarettes handy. Today's activities would be as follows. Jim had the morning to prepare for a meeting of the Texas Railroad Commission, while the women would go shopping. After the meeting, Jim and Claude would go to the Branson Veterans Museum. The women planned to visit one of the wineries in Branson. Tonight they would go listen to Terry Lawrence at the Grand National Auditorium in Branson. 6:30 a.m. At the Spirit Club, J.R. and C.B. Coleman are having blueberry muffins for breakfast. Delivering the morning prayer and breakfast message is Dr. Samuel Lethbridge, professor of clinical psychology from Odessa University College. He was currently on a teaching fellowship with Texas Tech University. 7:15 a.m. J.R. is at morning chapel at the Spirit Club. Sister Elizabeth Barron, who's a professor of legal philosophy at Lubbock University College, gave a lesson on biblical family values. 8 a.m. At the Center for Public Affairs building, J.R. is meeting with his business and professional communications professor, Marlene Dietrich. "When last I saw you, you hadn't declared a major yet," Mrs. Dietrich said. "But now you're in public affairs. And let me tell you something. If you're going to study public affairs, you need to know the difference between a fact and an opinion." They go through the accommodations letter from Disabled Student Services. She agrees with every accommodation with the exception of she would like to administer the tests and have a faculty assistant of his tutor be present during the exam. 8:05 a.m. The Hendrick party is having breakfast at a cafe in Branson. The ladies would go shopping after breakfast, and Claude would relax while Jim prepares for his meeting of the Texas Railroad Commission. 8:50 a.m. Jim is back at the hotel in Branson. He goes into the business center and types a response to the email he got from President Clinton. "Received your email and seriously interested in taking the appointment. Yours truly, James Ryan Hendrick Center." In a postscript, Jim asked the president to send his nomination papers to his accountant, Paul Greevy, who had kept all records of him from before and after the Bush administration. 9 a.m. JR is listening to the radio in the dorm living room when the Blake Carter Minute comes on. Isn't it something that while we have a foreign policy crisis, North Korea, wildfires and other problems in California, our president has jet-setted to Prague. Next stop is to see good old Boris Yeltsin about nuclear disarmament. Watch out. Meanwhile, Jim gets a call from his secretary. It seems that a rig broke down in Lubbock. Curtly, he exclaimed, that he was in Branson. However, he knew that there was a repairman stationed in Goldsmith and Big Lake. He currently tells her to call the repairman in Big Lake and slams down the phone. 10:15 a.m. JR is at the library with Jennifer looking over the business and professional communications syllabus for next week. I can't believe we have to write a paper and make a presentation about our communication style, Jennifer said. It's early in the semester. Write your resumes, Gerald said. 11:20 a.m. Jared is in his room listening to the Rush Limbaugh show. The Paul Shanklin Bill Clinton parody, I Lied to You, is playing on the radio. As JR is looking at his petroleum geology syllabus, one thing that annoyed JR was that Ken Rogers was requiring a midterm research paper on a basic petroleum geology topic. Meaning JR would have to reach out to his father. 1:45 p.m. After an unsuccessful meeting of the Texas Railroad Commission, Jim and Claude go on a tour of the Butterfly Palace and Rainforest. Betsy and Becky decided what they wanted to do was go to the Barnes and Greenville Library and Tavern, near where the show was going to be tonight. Watching country music star Terry Lawrence as a 44-year-old Livingston, Tennessee native trying to make her way in the country world since 1989. 2 p.m. JR is swimming at the Sibley with Larry Thurber and Bill Holden. She dumped you. I know that, Bill said. What's it to you? Larry asked. I knew all along. She was gonna be the woman that would break JR's heart. 4:30 p.m. JR is having a barbecue dinner at the Spirit Club. Brisket, rolls, and mashed potato salad. 6 p.m. Everyone is seated to watch the Jesus movie, a movie that had been released during the 70s, so it was gaining popularity again. 6:30 p.m. The Hendrick party settled in at the show of Terry Lawrence. She belted out tunes like